Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Entertainment Podcast, your source for all things entertainment. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Chad Stewart on the line. He's Managing Director over at Devonfield, and he's also author of Britfield the Lost Crown, which is book one in his 7-part Britfield series, book series. Chad, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Adam. Glad to be on.
Oh, man. So first off, much respect to anyone that does a 7-part of anything, let alone a series of novels. So congrats on the first book being launched, first off.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's been a lot of work.
So what is the, I always like to start off book interviews because I love promoting authors. I love promoting their work, and I'm a big fan of getting your message out there and really completing a project. So let's focus on book one today and maybe talk a little bit more about your plans for the series. But just to kick us off, what was the inspiration for starting this?
Yeah, so I'll give you a quick 2-minute overview if that's okay. Yeah, I'm originally from Newport Beach, California. I was back east in New England for 16 years, and about 10 years ago is when I had the idea for Britfield the Lost Crown. At the time, I was an investment banker for Morgan Stanley. I mean, I was down at this really boring seminar for the weekend in Providence, Rhode Island. And that's when I got this idea. I literally just did this little doodle of a circle, 3 lines, a basket, and then I put a boy in a balloon, and I wrote The Boy in the Balloon. And I thought, gosh, what an interesting story. So I went home, and literally on one piece of paper, I just started to outline it, bullet point it, and what's the general story? Where does it take place? And I've traveled throughout Europe. I was a British literature major, European history major in school. So book one takes place in England, and so I really sat down and spent 4 years, 2,500 hours to write and create Britfield the Lost Crown Book 1, which is part of the 7-book series, and we officially launched it last year, August, nationally launched it, and then we're getting geared up now for our international release. And so it's been a very, very long journey. I like to say this to the audience for anyone, that's an inspiring writer, but anyone that's even into business. We live in this kind of flash over substance society where it's like, I want it now, and it's like all success comes over hard work and time, and they say that every overnight success takes about at least 1 to 2 decades to complete. So it was a long, from concept of Britfield the Lost Crown to actually launching it took me 10 years. So.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. I love it. And I mean, as I was saying in the show, like in the warm-up in the beginning of the show, I'm like, man, I always like to write that novel. There's a lot of people listening right now that maybe they've done some of the nonfiction work or other things like that in their story. And, that's not easy either. I'm not claiming that is. But to tap into that creative side, especially when you come from the banking side or things like that, like it's not always easy. No. So what kind of tips would you give for that, let's just say, aspiring novelist, of somebody that's out there, maybe they've written some nonfiction stuff and they always want to cross over to that other side? What kind of advice would you give them?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'd say 2 things about writing is you write about what you know and you write about what you love. Because when you're writing about something that you know and you're writing about something you love, that natural passion and excitement comes out in your writing, and it makes it unique. You don't want to copy some other writer because we already have that writer out there. It's like an actor. It's like you don't want to be that actor. You want to be the best actor you can be. And so I think writing is very similar. And it just comes down to discipline and time. And I think I have a great admiration for anyone that writes a book, regardless that it gets published or anything. I think just to sit down and to create an entire story and finish the final draft, I think is an amazing accomplishment. But again, like I said, it just takes time and discipline. And I think you can get it down to, this is the analytical side of it, but for every published page, it takes you anywhere from 3 to 5 hours. So if, Adam, you said, hey, I want to write a 100-page book, I'd say that's great. Probably take you right around 300 to 400 to 500 hours to complete it. Now, because writing is 10% writing and 90% rewriting. And so to get that first draft done, that's great. That's really exciting. Get all your thoughts down. You got a beginning, a middle, and an end. Now the real work begins, because now you're going to keep going through it over and over and over. That's the editing process. And every single time that you edit your book or your work, it becomes better. And every time you edit, you become a better writer. And then you take a break, maybe a week, a month, and then you come back to it. But it really is. It's kind of like combing matted hair. You know what I mean? It's like your first draft. It's extremely rough. And then you start to comb through it once. That's your first edit. It's getting a little bit smoother. and you're a little more meticulous with the words you're using, and you're finding, you're bringing in different adverbs and stuff, and you're kind of putting it together and stuff. So it's a long, hard process, but it's exciting and it's fun, especially on the fictional side, because there's things inside you that it's so exciting. Like, you're sitting here kind of stumped, or you're like, okay, what happens next? And all of a sudden, these ideas just come out of your mind, and I think that's why writers love to do what they do. It's like I don't sit down and write a book and say, I've got it all mapped out. It's just like I have a general sense of it. I have a general idea of it. And it's kind of fun because book one is 384 pages, and we've already scored a 9.03 out of a scale 1 to 10 across all our demographics. We've won over 20 national, international awards. We won Parents' Choice Gold Medal, Mom's Choice Gold Medal. Our youngest reader's been 7. Our oldest reader's been 93 years old. So we've really created an extraordinary, exciting story that's kind of timeless. I mean, it takes place in England, it's current time, and I think that's what's kind of fun about it. So it's not kind of caught up in this fantasy world. Now, book 2 is already finished. I finished that last December at 540 pages, and that'll be launched next year.
Congratulations! Let's not just glance over that like no little feat there. Congratulations! That's awesome.
Yeah, that was a beast. It's funny too, because when I started it, and there's some authors out there, for whatever reason, it's like they love page count, and it's like I don't write for page count. I write for story. And if the story takes, and I thought book 2, which is called Britfield and the Return of the Britfield and Return of the Lion. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Britfield and the Rise of the Lion is book 2. I thought it was going to be about 350 pages, and it ended up to be 540 because the story dictated it. Now, I just started about 2 weeks ago writing book 3, so it's kind of a fun time to talk about writing because now I'm really back into the process. And I'll say this to writers: it's all structure and outlining. I think it's great to sit down and you're at your laptop and you start tapping it out. And anytime you have an idea, that's fantastic. But the best thing to do is to really sort of just have a place where you can be quiet and uninterrupted time, phones out of there, no one's coming in and out, whether it's an hour, 2 hours, a weekend, whatever it is, and just start outlining it, point by point by point. Where does it start? Where does it end? It's really important to know your ending, especially on the fiction side, because you got to know where you're going. It's like a road trip. If I get in my car for a 3-week road trip and I don't know where I'm going, it's a disaster. But if I'm leaving San Diego and driving to Boston over the next 3 weeks, that's fantastic. That's a beginning and an end. Now, where am I going to stop along the way? But it's all outlined. It's scene by scene, step by step, and that's really the process that I'm in right now. Book 3 takes place in Italy, and so I know where it starts and I know where it ends, and then where are the areas that I want to go, like Florence and Rome and Venice. It's kind of exciting. So if you look at writing a book like putting together architectural plans for a house, I think that's a good way to look at it. You don't go out and just buy the material and build your house from a picture. You spend the months and months, outlining or putting together the architectural plans. And then when you go out to build it, you already pretty much know where everything's going to be. So.
Man, that's awesome. Give us a little bit more. We don't want a spoiler, obviously, because we want everybody to go out there and get it. But give us a little bit more on the story so that readers know what to expect.
Yeah, it's exciting because just to let you know, we had to cut it short, but we were on a national school tour, and so I drove 9,000 miles, 18 states, over 150 schools, and presented in front of about 30,000 students.
Wow!
And I was in Memphis, Tennessee, back-to-back schools, Monday, Tuesday, and then I had to drive in March, and then had to drive back, obviously, because everything that was happening. Because we were going to take it all the way up north, all the way to New England, and all the way down to Florida. So. We'll come back to that, but the tour was great, and some of the questions I get is, what's Britfield and the Lost Crown? What does that mean? And I think there's a great hint in that, with when you talk about crown, you're talking about royalty, and if something's lost, that's part of the mystery of it. But it really just takes place. It starts in Yorkshire, northern England. It's about Tom and Sarah. They're 2 orphans, and Tom's been an orphan his whole life, and he's been at this miserable orphanage called Weatherly Orphanage for 6 years. And this is the year he vows to escape, and that's kind of how I kick off that first chapter with that sort of action trigger. And eventually, I don't want to give anything away, but along the ways they escape from the orphanage, they commandeer this hot air balloon because they're trying to escape from Detective Dowerstone, who's been assigned to get them back, and he's renowned for finding escaped orphans. And it's just a fun, exciting adventure that starts in Yorkshire and it goes to Oxford and Windsor and London and kind of ends up all the way down in Dover. And it's a fun, fast-paced action adventure that kids, children, parents, and adults just love to read. And we could talk a little bit about that because part of it's my writing technique to make it go so fast. But I've had 12-year-olds read the 384-page book in 5 hours.
Oh, wow.
Like my literary agent, her 15-year-old daughter, when she had the manuscript, she read it in one sitting. That means she sat down, started it, and didn't get up until she was finished. So
get out. So you have a bingeable book in the day of Netflix and binge TV. Finally, binge reading. Thank you.
I like that. Yeah, that's good. That's a good. I'll have to use that. Binge reading. That could be the next hashtag.
No, that's exactly what you've done.
But no, yeah, and we can talk, if you want it, we can talk a little bit about, why and that technique and the process of it. But I mean, for me too, coming back to writers, it's like if it's not needed, don't put it in there, and be very careful with your description. I think too many authors try to prove how great of writers they are or how poetic they are by just bogging it down with a lot of description, and really all that does is it just takes away from the story. And we've all had that where we're reading a book and it's like, okay, I'm following these characters and all of a sudden, boom, 3 paragraphs describing what the house looks like inside. And it's like, give me a break. It's like, who cares? It's like, do it in 2 or 3 lines. You know what I mean? And let us fill it in. But what you're doing is, I call them speed bumps, because you're reading and then all of a sudden, boom, you have this huge description and it just kind of takes away the flow of the action and the movement. So I try to really refine my descriptions. And this is a work in progress for me. And I'm getting better and better at it. But the idea is what would normally take a paragraph to describe, can you do it in 1 to 2 lines and not sacrifice anything? Can I outline whatever I'm trying to describe in a paragraph and do it? I like to call them power lines, and if you can think about it, you can think about a great one-line quote that you've read. And just in that one line, it's like, it takes your breath away. And all it is just one line. And it's just the arrangement of words, but someone can sit there and have one quote that actually is profound. And if you get your descriptions like that, where you're not being repetitive and you're tightening it up, and maybe you have 3 sentences and you can kind of bring them into 2 sentences, and just have those tight descriptions where you paint the picture, you get the gist, I can visualize the rest, and you move the story along. I think that's very, very important. So it's I think what's fun about it too is I like to call it 3 pillars, and these are what's important to writing. Number 1, it's a fast-paced adventure novel that the audience just loves to read. We've had just literally thousands of wonderful reviews across the board. Like I said, our oldest reader was 93 years old. It was a woman, and she read it in 5 hours and loved it. So it's a fast-paced adventure novel. And we found that even like with children that aren't readers, and many of them don't like reading, you'll give them Britfield and they just love to read it. They can't put it down. So it's an exciting book. And then number 2, it's really based on just, family values, based on friendship, character, and courage. That's the foundation of the whole book. And it takes place in present time. And I think in this kind of fantasy society, this flash over substance society where there's a disconnect, you have your demigods and your superheroes, and they're fun, but kids can't really relate to that because they're not Superman or they're not a magician. They can't wave a wand to get out of a problem. You know what I mean? That's not reality. Yeah, sure. And I think what's fun about Britfield is it's really grounded in reality. And Tom and Sarah are constantly faced with all these problems, and they've got to figure it out. And they've got to talk it out. They've got to communicate, critical thinking, think about it. Sometimes they make the right decisions. Sometimes they make the wrong decisions. They learn from their mistakes. And I think that's what makes it such a fun book. There's no suspended reality, if you will. And you're like, oh, come on. Or wait a second, hold on. They were there and they're suddenly here, or, So, and then number 3, it's actually educational. And so as you're reading the book, we like to call it stealth education. But as you're reading the book, you're going to learn about history, geography, art, architecture, culture. So I bring you into this entire world of England. And I wrote it really as a tribute to my love of England, my time in England. I lived there for about 2 years. And it's really a tribute to the English people and the wonderful history and the wonderful countryside.
Man, I love it. This is exciting. So that being said, Chad, first off, I can talk to you about this all day long. I know we barely scratched the surface on the book and also your plans for the overall series. That being said, if somebody's listening to this and they want to learn more or to connect with Britfield and the Lost Crown and also just the overall brand in the Britfield series, what's the best way for them to learn more and to follow up?
Yeah, we're on Amazon, which is great. So you can get the paperback, hardcover, softcover, and we also have the ebook, and we actually have the audiobook, which was done by an award-winning voice talent, Ian Russell, British voice talent. He does all the characters for the audio version. You can buy the book on Britfield.com. So if you go to the website, that's what's really cool. We spent about a year creating Britfield. It's Britfield, Britfield.com, and it's got over 400 pictures of England. So everywhere where Tom and Sarah go,
it's beautiful, by the way. Your website is amazing. Yeah. I looked at it and I'm like, where am I at? Am I at Disneyland? I didn't even know. It's beautiful.
It's pretty cool. We're really psyched. I mean, I like to say, if you can find a better book website, you know,
not happening.
Seriously, let me know. And we looked at a lot of them out there. I mean, hundreds, if not thousands, and we're talking some of the best selling.
I could tell.
Yeah. So the website's really cool because it's got a lot of our interviews and on our tour, and it's got over 400 pictures of England. So everywhere where Tom and Sarah goes, it has interactive maps, so like Google Maps. So it's like, okay, so where exactly is Yorkshire, or where's Weatherly, and you can zoom in and zoom out of it, which is kind of fun. So to me, it really complements the book. It's great for teachers if they're teaching the book. We actually designed Britfield the Lost Crown to be taught in the schools. And we actually have an 83-page study guide that goes with the book. So the teacher could literally teach Britfield the Lost Crown over a semester, and that's how it's designed. And in fact, through this school tour, we've had probably over about 20-30% of the schools already adopt Britfield into the reading curriculum, which has been exciting. So.
Wow, absolutely amazing. I love it. Well, Chad, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing more about the series and all the great things you're doing out there. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review in the Apple iTunes store, and if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Entertainment, definitely give us a subscribe there, but also leave us some comments on the video. I mean, love to know what kind of projects and things you're working on. And Chad, thanks again for coming on the show.